We picked up some swag, which I should share with you guys if I can get it out of the cup. Uh-oh. There we go. Oh, it's good YouTube right there.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Hey, welcome back to Clint Street Machines. I thought I'd give you another quick video. We're not working on the S10 so much today, but we do have some developments on the S10 that I want to share with you. I'm going to do a little mail call segment, even though I usually do that as a separate video because it's going to be quick. And I'm going to show you some of the other things we've been doing around here this week, which is going to be good background information probably for next week's video. So anyway, let's get going. Okay, so when we were going out to the West Coast, I already told you guys about that. We stopped in Prescott, Arizona and visited another YouTuber, Tony's Hot Rod Garage. Tony's one of the No Name Nationals community members. He attended the first No Name Nationals as a spectator, and he got his 500 subs and is going to the No Name Nationals this year as a participant. Congratulations, Tony. That's awesome. Tony's got a great channel. He's a really good dude. And yeah, he gave us some stuff while we were out there. So let's take a look at it. He gave me a bunch of cards so I could hand these out to people, and they're pretty cool. They got the name of his channel. They've got a QR code and all his contact information on there. And he's got these really cool stickers he had made up. He gave me a handful of those. Hopefully you guys can see that clearly. And best and last and not least is something I desperately needed, which is another coffee cup. People keep borrowing my coffee cups. Kind of like borrowing my underwear as far as I'm concerned. But Tony's got some merch out, I believe. I believe you can buy these on his... go to his channel and find the website to buy these and stickers and t-shirts and everything else. So thanks a bunch, Tony. I really appreciate it. Now back to our regularly scheduled video. All right, so as far as the S10 goes, we haven't done any physical work to the S10 other than we've solved a problem I was having with the front end. I didn't know how I was going to make my control arms without finding a ball joint that would fit the spindles that I'm running and be easily mounted to a control arm. So I looked at all the bolt-in styles. I ordered 7 or 8 different bolt-in style ball joints. None of them fit the spindles, even though, you know, the taper was the same, the diameters didn't line up, that sort of thing. So what I ended up figuring I have to do is go to the stock 03 Mustang ball joint. So we took these over to a buddy of mine, and he has a lathe and some extensive experience building hot rods. Knowledgeable guys. So I had them build these rings, a pair of them. Probably should have had to make 3 if I was thinking straight, in case I messed one up. But these rings have the appropriate grooves in them. This will fit up into there. So when you press it in this way, this actually fits up in there about halfway. And this will come down far enough to leave room to get our ball joint boot on. So that's a big obstacle overcome. Now we can build our control arms whenever we're done taking our measurements, and we're ready to do that. So that's a big deal. I'm really glad to have that done. And I think that's about it for the S10 project. Now, I'm not sure how much work we're going to be getting on this S10 right now, because what I'm trying to figure out is what I'm going to take to the No Name Nationals. I would love to go to the No Name Nationals with a vehicle. I was originally going to take this S10, but the reality of it is it's a big project. I bit off a lot more than I've chewed in the past. I'm sure I can figure it out, but I don't want to get rushed on this, get halfway through the truck and find out that I've made some major critical mistake at the beginning. We're going slow on that truck on purpose because I don't want to mess it up. I don't have the financial resources to do things twice. So I'm holding off on the truck a little bit as far as the No Name Nationals. We've got about 3.5, 4 months until the No Name Nationals. And even if I bring that, it's probably just going to be a chassis sitting on some tires. And it's nothing I can do much with. So if I'm not going to take the little S10 to the No Name Nationals, what am I going to take? So the only way I can afford to take something else is if I either buy something, make it cool, take it to the No Name Nationals, and then sell it afterwards to recoup the money. And the other thing I could do is, what could I make out of all the stuff I have here? I do have 2 small block Chevys. We're going to go through those. I'll probably do that in this video as well. Matter of fact, tell you what, let's take a quick look at pulling apart those small block Chevys. Okay, so one of the things I needed to know was what condition my small blocks are in. Now I have 2, right? I have this bare block back here, and that's one of those allegedly high nickel blocks with the 020 on the right there. Standard bore right now, and there's no reason to think there's anything wrong with it. It is a 2-bolt main, like I said, but that's fine. If I was going to build some high winding, high performance engine that a 2-bolt wasn't strong enough for, the 2-bolt block's the one you want, because then you can add splayed caps to it, which are much stronger than the factory 4-bolt caps. However, I also have a factory 4-bolt replacement engine here. And you can tell it's a factory replacement engine because it's got dipstick provision on both sides. You know, the early cars had the driver's side dipstick, I believe it was, and then the later cars went to the passenger side. So these blocks were designed to be able to go into either setup. So we've been evaluating this one. It's got rusty cylinders. It will need to be bored, which is what I was really trying to find out when I was evaluating it. So we know that needs to be done, but the crank looks really clean. I have not cleaned it up and really inspected it thoroughly, but the crank seems to be pretty good. The bearings looked good. It is a standard crank. It has not been cut. And in order to help keep the cost down of building a small block, I happen to already have a set of pistons and rings that I could use, because these seal power pistons right here are made to go with the stock length rod. And I actually have 2 sets of factory rods and pistons. So I got to think out of 16 rods, I could find 8 decent ones. So, sorry guys. So here we go. These are the pistons I have. I got these on a trade deal back when, if you guys remember that video. These are dome tops, and I did some math last night, and using these pistons in this block, or that block actually, with these cylinder heads that came on this block, I'll have about 11-to-1 compression ratio, and these are actually 194, 150 valves. And those are a lot better heads than I thought they were when I initially got the engine. I looked them up, and they actually have a very thick deck, so they're easy to mill to reduce your CCs, and they run between 74 and 75 CCs from the factory. So there you go. All right, so one of the things we have here, and it may look like just some junky old frame, is the frame out of our S10. Now, this being a standard cab long bed makes this a 118-inch wheelbase, which means it's the frame you need for the, I think it's 48 to 53 Chevy pickup. This frame would allow you to not have to lengthen or shorten the frame or move your suspension components in order to just stick this under the truck and get it bolted up. There's a place called like RC 504, I don't know what they're called. There's a company that sells kits to bolt that truck onto this frame with no welding required. And the advantage to someone to buying this is that I've already got 2-inch lowering blocks. It's been monoleafed. It's got air shocks installed. Rims have all been painted, and they're dirty from sitting out here, but I have the trim rings and all the chrome lug nuts and everything for the wheels. For those of you who don't remember, this was a running, driving, lowered mini truck, and it looked great and had no issues. What else we got? All these ball joints and the center support, or not ball joints, the U-joints and the center support have all been replaced. What else? All the suspension components have been replaced. If you guys have been with the channel any length of time, you know that I went through this whole thing and you watched me do it, and I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are still around. The only thing I didn't do on this frame was the control arm bushings, and they are indeed bad. So as you can see here, all the steering has been replaced. Not the idler arm or the Pitman arm, but everything else has been replaced. It's got Beltec 2-inch drop spindles on it. I have the Beltec shock absorbers for the front, and I might be able to throw in or trade the 700R4 that came out of there and the 4.3 liter engine that came out of there, both of which are fine. This was rebuilt 5 years ago. You guys have probably seen that video as well. This thing is stout. It is set up for a V8, and I was going to run it in this truck. Now, let me explain why I'm not going to run it. So the reason I'm saying not to run that 700 is I can't figure out how to adapt it to the big block without spending at least $600. That's just to adapt it to fit the back of the big block. The other thing is, when I built that transmission, I built it to go behind a small block Chevy in the S10 mini truck. So I did everything to it as far as bigger boost valve, 4L60 pistons, you know, Corvette servos, et cetera, all the way through the thing. The only thing it doesn't have, though, is a billet input drum. And the input drum is a failure point when you start putting massive amounts of torque and horsepower to it. So when I built it to withstand a 350 horsepower small block, it's a lot different than sticking it behind this probably 500 foot-pounds of torque big block. So not only is it $600 for an adapter, I got to drop another 500 for the input billet drum, disassemble it, build it all up, and then I still need a torque converter and a shifter. So there's a serious expense. I still got basically close to $1,500 I'd have to put into this transmission, which means we still need to find a transmission for this truck. I think what I'm going to probably do is just go with a 727 Chrysler, which is your standard old school 3-speed automatic. And the reason to do that is because it's the only transmission they actually ever bolted behind these. So it's the only one that will bolt to this bell housing, that the bell housing will bolt up to the engine without any modifications. And then I can just order a flex plate, torque converter, all that stuff, and it's all off the shelf stuff. That's going to change what I do about the rear gear ratio. Because if I put that 727 in it, that old school 3-speed transmission, I lose overdrive. I just have the 3 speeds, and I think the third speed is a 1-to-1 or something like that. There is no overdrive. So if I was to put like a 410 rear gear in this thing that makes it accelerate real well and be a hoot to drive, then I'm going to be buzzing some pretty high RPMs at like 50 miles an hour. And that won't get us to events like drag and drives or power tour or long distance. That'd be fine for taking it to local cruise night. But I think if I run a freeway gear, like a 354, I have a set of 354 gears here, or 356, 350 something. And I have 275 and 308s, and I have a lot of different, freeway gears. And I think a 354 might be a nice compromise to be able to still drive it on the freeway and accelerate well. Because the truck is so lightweight, I shouldn't need as deep of a first gear or as deep of a rear gear. All right, here's our little S pickup, S or T, depending on if it's GMC or Chevy. It is GMC, actually. So this would have been an S15, as the fenders say right there. I don't have any doors. I don't have a steering column. I don't have a hood, and I don't have a tailgate. We've got a dent back there. Got a repair there. So this truck was a 4-cylinder stick shift. It's got a clutch pedal in it. This is a manual brakes car. So this should have a higher gear ratio. And when I say higher, I mean lower, actually. Higher numerically. So it should have like a 342 instead of like a 308 is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we have this truck to do something with. And I also have the old Brat. This is a 79 Subaru Brat. I have a title on this one as well. She's got a lot of rust, folks. Like, we ain't kidding. Like, she's rusty. She's definitely rusty. But she's also cool because it's a Brat, and I love keeping things out of the junkyard. It's got a nice patina on the roof. That's cool. This is obviously not the original hood. The original hood was, it's actually over there. Somebody had run over it with a car or stepped on it or something, so it's flat across the back instead of having the curve to match the car. So that one needs to be repaired. It's been stretched. This one actually kind of fits just the way it sits, so we'll probably hang on to that. This thing has the original camper shell. As you can see, it's Subaru by Snug Top, and it still works, which is nice. Stays up all by itself. And back here we have 3 tailgates of varying quality, from absolute garbage to just a little better than garbage. There's a gas tank back there I don't care anything about. It does still have the headrests in it, though, from the original jump seats, and it does still have the original slider window. So it's cool in that respect. It's got a few parts to it. Kind of neat, if you ask me. I used to have the seats, but they were pretty torn up, and I sold them to another kid who had a Subaru. I am missing a fender for this corner, which really sucks. They're not just laying around everywhere. But at least now I can show you the kind of rust I'm talking about and why this car was a giveaway. You can see there's a rust hole right above where the door bolts on. There's rust all around there. Huge hole there. It's all bad. Rust up there too. So this, when I got it, I thought it'd make a nice fire pit. But I don't know. I have a new idea now, looking at these two things. All right, so as you can see, I've got a lot of stuff here that I can evaluate and go through and figure out if I can come up with some sort of cool project out of it all and not spend any money. That's the main thing, is I've got to try and spend, if not no money. I need to at least spend significantly less than I would spend trying to keep this thing going right now. So I'm not going to make any announcements yet. I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking, because every time I make plans and tell people what I'm thinking, I end up changing my plans and then I look like a flake. So just know that I'm a flake, and I will work on getting this stuff evaluated. Maybe by next weekend, I can actually have done some mock-ups and some more evaluation and gotten to a point where I can make a decision on what we're going to do here. But for those of you who are here strictly for the S10 content, don't go anywhere, even if I don't work on it in the next few months. It's always going to be in here getting work done, and I'm still going to be gathering parts, and there will still be little things getting done to it along the way before we get back into it in earnest. Thanks a bunch, guys. I'm going to try and keep you posted, and I'm going to try and keep things moving forward. So thanks a bunch for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys maybe next week or something. All right? Till then, take care of yourselves.